Hello, 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 everybody. How are we doing on this fine Sunday morning? We're ready to kick off week 5 here at the TFA. You know what it is. The Fantasy Authority is bringing you the game day live show to answer all questions that you have for your lineups. Maybe you want to throw in some DFS questions as Kevin is already off the screen, probably setting his last second lineups, because I know he's probably going to have to change that Millie team they did on the DFS DJ Nation because he didn't read my article beforehand. So, I had some plays in there for him and that he's probably fitting into his lineups, but we are happy to see you guys once again. We do this every week. And we are happy to bring on some new hosts with us today. So I'm Ryan Williams, your host here at Ryan Alexander _W on Twitter. Kevin, I got with me. He's at FantasyRad13. We got Kent in the house at CCNP_Kent. And then Kai, who's been joining us for a couple of game day shows now in the row. He's becoming a regular at Kai Squared on Twitter. Fellas, how are we doing? It's week 5.
Hey, doing very good. Glad to be here for the first time this year. Look forward to getting to some football questions, talk all the games, and hopefully help a couple people out.
Yeah, man, that's what we're here for. Kai, I see you got a little interesting get up there, little hat there. Chose some Cokes, but
just
maybe
a regular hat.
Yeah,
I just have it in my closet, as you do. It's just like your hat, only a little more fun. That's all.
Right, little less Steelers related, a little more Colts related.
A little less Steelers, a little more Colts, a little more fantasy football, a little more fun. But it's going good. I'm just hoping you guys can help me out with my lineups. So,
man, that's what we're here for, right? We got to be able to talk some stuff for our lineups as well too. As I got some teams, and I'm trying not to go through any season-long redraft teams without setting my lineup. Sam Bradford has almost cost me 2 times this year for having him in and forgetting to change him, but I'm still 3-1 in that league, regardless, with Gurley and Elliott holding up my own. So, fellas, what do you say we just get into the games right now? I know that we have a question right now in the chat from Andrew, and Andrew, we will get to your question, but let's kind of just lay the scenery here. We got a lot of injury news coming out this morning, which I know is affecting a lot of people and probably has a lot of questions going for them. We're dealing with injuries at the quarterback position where we have Derek Carr and Mariota, who are looking through the week like somehow they might miraculously be able to play in these games today, but both are expected to be out. So my gosh, we are blessed, or however you want to put it, with seeing EJ Manuel once again and then Matt Castle. We got a couple injuries at the running back position. I know the one thing that sticks out is Matt Forte being out this week, Paul Perkins being out. So you should see like guys, Bilal Powell, but obviously Elijah McGuire coming into his own last week. He should get some more run. Wayne Gallman in New York, he should get some more run. Wide receivers, we got Corey Davis out once again. We got Tyrell Williams, who's looking banged up, but it seems like he's going to play. But Jordan Matthews is out. Kenny Golladay is out. So what are you guys thinking on the injury front here, and how is this shaping up to how it affects your teams or any plays you might be on this week?
Well, honestly, I think the quarterbacks are the bigger key when it comes to the offense, so it definitely shakes up a lot of things. Biggest one, I think, for me is going to be Mariota because, they have the passing options there in Delaney Walker and Rashard Matthews, but they're going to probably transition more to a run game. We know what Matt Castle is. He's not prolific by any stretch of the imagination, but he definitely gets the job done. But I think they'll definitely try and just pound the rock with their 2 awesome running backs. I think this is a good DeMarco Murray game. And I think even Derrick Henry will get somewhere between 10 to 13 touches, and he could probably turn that into a decent outing as well. So we'll see how that shakes out.
No, I think that this week I think is interesting, especially with injuries and with buys. No Matt Ryan, no Drew Brees this week. So I think that it's a streaming week, and I think we've been blessed with some actually good matchups for some of these guys that makes you feel a little uncomfortable to play. I think Jacoby Brissett is an option. I think he's a borderline QB1 this week in their matchup against the 49ers. I like Brian Hoyer. I think this could be a sneaky, high-scoring affair. I think that Alex Smith is certainly an option. as a streaming option. And then I think Jay Cutler, who looks to be absolutely dead, apparently. But I think that a lot of people have to remember that the Dolphins have had a brutal run so far this year with their schedule. Obviously, with the hurricane that moved week 1 back, or for them not to play, and they've been on the road. This is their first home game in week 5 so far to start the season. They've had to travel to London. They've just been dealt a pretty bad hand. So I think a lot of people are going to try to stay away from this Miami game, and I think this could actually be one that bears a lot of fruit with starting with Jay Cutler, and I think Devontae Parker is a fantastic play, and as well as Jarvis Landry, who's going to get C targets. And I think this is a nice bounce back week for Jay Ajayi as well. So I think there's a lot of options there to stream. Carson Palmer, if he's available, is in a great spot. Has thrown the most pass attempts per game at 45.8 on the season, going against the Philadelphia secondary, who has trouble stopping anybody. So I just think, streaming wise, I think there's a lot of plays out there for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. A ton of plays this week. And thanks, Kev, for getting that link out for the folks. Guys, you can find us on YouTube. We are live right now. Tell your friends to get in. Probably guys that you aren't in leagues in, just so you have that advantage over them. But we are here. We're trying to answer all the questions you guys might have. Andrew, we're going to get you started. Andrew Hankins here. He's got 2 flex questions for us. He's like 1 in a PPR league, starting Lynch, Kearse, or Funchess. We'll start with that first because I think he has another separate question in PPR. So we got a flex question here: Lynch, Kearse, or Funchess this week. Kai, if you want to kick it off, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think because it's a PPR league that has me leaning Funchess. He's seeing such a safe floor of targets ever since Olsen left the lineup. You like his ceiling of getting into the end zone as well. He's getting those red zone targets. Number 1 receivers have kind of torched the Browns so far this season. We've seen all of them have good games. But with the Jets, you kind of have to question, is that Robbie Anderson at this point? Is that Jermaine Kearse at this point? So I like Kearse. I think he could have a good game. The Browns are straight up not good. But yeah, I like Lynch. I just, without Carr in the lineup and against the Ravens defense that for what it did look good the first 2 weeks of the season, and if you throw that London game out of the water, they, only got blown up by the Steelers, and that's it. So I'm not sure I'm ready to start Lynch. He hasn't looked good the last 2 weeks just because they haven't been able to run the ball at all. They've been behind so much. So with EJ Manuel in there, I'm not liking Lynch this week. I'm not sure what you guys think, but yeah, I think I would go Funchess there.
I think it's easily Funchess. I don't want to play any Raider this week. I maybe Amari Cooper, but I don't like it at all. But Marshawn Lynch is a straight fade for me this week. I don't want any part of him. He looks to be his age, looks old, hasn't really looked, like I said, hasn't played well at all, and I don't really want any part of him. I would be sitting him everywhere I had him, and I think Devin Funchess, I think we've seen what we maybe should have already have known, that he's the best wide receiver that the Carolina Panthers have. Continues to play well, has progressed. He's still only 23. I know a lot of people left him for dead, and I think that was a mistake. And I think that you can relatively expect for him to continue that sort of production that he's been putting up the last couple of weeks, seeing the bulk of the targets. So I think it's definitely Devin Funchess. I think Devin Funchess has a shot to be a strong wide receiver too this week.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so ugly. Talking about Devin Funchess last week and how I never play him, I never have exposure to him anywhere, and then he goes out and has that game against New England, and that nothing more tilting when you see a player who's just on your do not touch list pop and go off. I wonder though if people are really chasing that or what this week, because this Detroit Lions defense has been one that sneakily, really been good there with Darius Slay and even Quandre playing, a lot better than he has been. And with, I know Benjamin's banged up and Funchess looked great, but it just, with Carolina being on the road in this game, it makes me wonder what Panthers team is going to show up. Is this going to be the team that just, smacked around New England, or are they going to be coming off a high thinking that they can win? And then, Detroit's going to come out there and throw the hammer down. Kearse is really interesting, like Kai said, because with Kenny Britt being rolled out and them really not having any other receivers besides running back Duke Johnson, he should be in line, or I'm sorry, that's the Jets, but he should be in line for some work there with Matt Forte out and Elijah McGuire and Bilal Powell at the helm. So hopefully he can get going this week. I might be leaning to put Kearse in over Funchess for me.
No, but see, because I think Robbie Anderson is. I think he's the guy that if I'm going to play a Jet wide receiver, I think it's Robbie Anderson.
There is only one receiving option that you need to play on the Jets this week, and that is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Exactly. This dude, they already talked about how they're going to feature him this week, and he's already gotten, I think, six plus targets both of the first 2 weeks. Even when they said he wasn't up to game speed, to me that screams that he's going to be probably the top passing option. He's just a nice big safety blanket from Josh McCown, the tight end whisperer. So hopefully we'll see a good outing out of him. But I think for me, Robbie Anderson comes second on the list. So Jermaine Kearse kind of falls down the line there a little bit. And I also go Funchess in this choice.
You definitely it's now a weekly thing. I don't care who the tight end is that you use them against the Browns because last week I was super high on Tyler Kroft, and I think I got a little bit of flack from the peanut gallery here for my Tyler Kroft love, and I think he smashed for 2 touchdowns, 6 catches, 68 yards. Here? So I think that worked out pretty well. So yes, it is definitely Austin Seferian-Jenkins' week among tight ends this week, especially with some guys off the slate and everything else. So I think he's up there with the Evan Ingrams and the Charles Clays of the world as some of the top plays at tight end this week.
Yep, all the tight ends have done well against the Browns except Jack Doyle. So
Kai has to throw in his little Colts favoritism there. That's all right. But yeah, ASJ, if you're playing DFS this week, look on DraftKings. He's 3,500. Might want to be in your cash lineups, your tournament lineups. Nice little salary relief there for your teams. Before we get into any DFS and move on, because we're still waiting for questions to come in, let's talk about some more of these situations. And a guy that I brought up in that Jets game, but plays for the opposite side. The Browns in the Jets game here really is interesting because Duke Johnson, this guy has been just a monster here at the running back position, which really isn't fair at the usage he's seeing as a wide receiver. It's hard to even call him a running back right now because he's only had 10 carries on the year. But, with him being at the helm there, Kaiser, he really looks awful, but Kenny Britt is going to be out. And I know Kev loves this Ricardo Lewis character who just somehow is finding targets. So is this a Cleveland Browns situation that you guys are having any exposure to, whether it be season long or DFS going against this Jets team?
I mean, I don't think we have. We don't even have to ask me. We already know it's Ricardo Lewis week. It's been Ricardo Lewis week all week, and now all of a sudden I'm starting to hear more and more people talk about Ricardo Lewis, and I'm like, you guys are late to the party. I've already been there. I've already been on the train, and I'm the conductor of it, and it's going to be great. And Ricardo Lewis, 100 yards, touchdown today. It's going to be fantastic. 3,700 on DraftKings. So in season long, I'm starting him in all my leagues that I got him, and I feel great about Ricardo Lewis this week.
Which is how many leagues, Kev?
Season long? Oh, it's only 3. I don't have time for that much season long anymore with my DFS. But I got Ricardo Lewis in probably 40% of lineups right now.
Oh my goodness! Oh, that scares me.
I'll let Kevin have the train conductor hat. He can be the guy who rides in the front. But I want to just say that I had him in my sleeper pickup, article. I think week 2. When Rashard Higgins had that huge game and everyone was like, okay, well, this is the guy. I said, no, Rashard Higgins, all right. He's got good routes, but his athletic profile just isn't it's about 50% of what it could be. And Ricardo Lewis just offers you that upside. He's going to be able to body people a lot better. He'll get jump balls. He can run. He can do everything. So I'm with Kev on Ricardo Lewis, definitely for this week. Especially going forward. He's been getting fed some targets. I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but I know he's had a decent target share for that receiving core right now. And Kenny Britt, even when he does play, he's just been loafing, and he's not a strong receiver for this team right now. I think we're going to see the end of Kenny Britt as far as the Browns this year going forward.
Kenny Britt really is Dwayne Bowe. He's Dwayne Bowe. That's what he is for the Browns. So yeah, it's Ricardo Lewis had 19 targets the last 2 weeks. It's funny because everybody was on Rashard Higgins, and that same week when I wrote up my waiver rankings, I wrote about both of them and how I felt like that Ricardo Lewis was the better ad. Though I felt like in the immediate moment that Rashard Higgins was going to see more volume initially, but it didn't take long for Ricardo Lewis to take that spot over because I think we found out Rashard Higgins isn't really that good.
No, 100%, 100%. I'm not mad at you, Kev. And like you said, give credit where credit is due. So if Ricardo Lewis does somehow spike this week, you know where to at Kevin Steele. That's at FantasyRat13 on Twitter. Good, Andrew. I said we would get to your other questions, so I'm going to throw that in right now, guys. It's PPR league again, but still looking at the flex here with Tyrell Williams, Tyler Lockett, Latavius Murray, Eddie Lacy, and Aaron Jones. I know that's a lot to digest, so I'm going to go through them again. He's got Tyrell Williams. He is dealing with the injury, but expected to play. Tyler Lockett there in Seattle going against the Rams. Latavius Murray in Minnesota for Monday night, who is expected to get a majority of the workload, but we'll see. And then Eddie Lacy, who Pete Carroll is going to run out there as the starter in Seattle. And then we got Aaron Jones with Ty Montgomery banged up. So which one of these guys would be the one that you guys would lean to throw in your flex this week?
Well, I just got to say something real quick. It looks like it's 2 flex starters. Am I reading that right? So we picking 2 out of this group, or?
Yeah, I think it is. 2 flex starters. 2 flex.
He doesn't know how to read it. Don't worry, guys. He doesn't know how to read. So
yeah, a little dyslexic. So the 2s kind of end up in some places. But yeah, no, we got 2 flex starters.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go right ahead.
All right. I was going to say real quick, I am not going to play Murray unless it's an absolute dire situation and you're suffering from bye weeks. You got to wait and see how this backfield plays out, because first things first, Latavius Murray is not Dalvin Cook. He's not even close to Dalvin Cook in terms of talent. He's not going to get the opportunity that Dalvin Cook had either. He's able to catch some passes, so he might have a little bit of PPR value. But last year from week 10 on, I tweeted this a while back, Jerick McKinnon actually received, I believe it was 37 receptions in the last 6 weeks of the season, the fantasy season. So he was pacing around 80 receptions, and that's Jerick McKinnon, the number 2 guy. So I don't see Latavius having too much PPR value here. If I had to pick 2 guys from this group, I'd probably go with Tyrell Williams, and Tyler Lockett. Again, with Aaron Jones in Green Bay, I don't know what the shakeout is going to be between him and Jamal Williams if Jamal Williams is 100% ready to play. So I think with the backfields, you want to wait and see. Eddie Lacy is a good matchup, but, man, I don't know how you trust any Seattle running back right now. You guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with most of the stuff you said. I think Tyrell Williams is a lock. He's as far as compared to those other guys. And then if you're looking for a second option, all these backfields are pretty murky, like Ken was talking about. I don't think you can start a Seattle running back. Maybe you can start McKissick in a PPR if you had him, but I wouldn't start Lacy or Rawls. I got to wait to see how that shakes out. And then Aaron Jones, I'm hesitant to start him, even though he looked decent last week, just because it looks like Jamal Williams is going to play, even though Ty Montgomery is going to be out. I was talking with our own Sam Holt this morning about that. I think it could be a 60-40 split between those guys, with Jones leading the way, and that just sounds pretty gross to me. I think one of them could end up in the end zone just because they are playing the Cowboys. That's a high-scoring game to target this week. And Tyler Lockett, until I have him in a couple leagues sitting on the bench, just stashed there, but until Russell Wilson has more than 4 seconds to throw from the pocket, I don't know that Lockett can see some deep targets. So I think as far as for me, I think Latavius Murray has probably the best chance to fall into the end zone tomorrow night. So I would lean him, even though it is a PPR. I think with those guys, you're looking for a touchdown to make their week, just because they are, not the greatest options. But Tyrell Williams definitely a lock.
I think in PPR formats, I think Aaron Jones is almost an RB1. I feel fantastic about Aaron Jones. I have no faith in Jamal Williams. And Aaron Jones was towards the end of the week was running with the starters as well there in Green Bay. If this game is a high-scoring affair like we feel like it is, I think Aaron Jones is going to see a bunch of targets as well out of the backfield. So Jamal Williams is not a pass catcher. I'm not worried about that. Jamal Williams really hasn't done anything to impress me, whether it's preseason. Aaron Jones, all the way back to training camp preseason, has played very, very well. I think that he's the guy here. I like Aaron Jones a great deal. I'm playing him in DFS. I'm playing him season long. I think he is a very underrated play this week. And then I think it really comes down for me to – because I don't like the Chargers situation very much this week. Traveling across country, they haven't played very well to begin with. So I don't love Tyrell Williams, especially against the secondary of the Giants. So and actually, if I was going to play a Giants wide receiver not named Keenan Allen or a pass catcher, it's probably Hunter Henry. I like Hunter Henry a great deal this week. I know a lot of people are off him, but that's not a part of this question. So it really comes down to the second guy for me, Latavius Murray or Eddie Lacy. And I think for me, I'm going to lean towards I think who has the better matchup, and the Rams have been absolutely horrible against the running back this year. They're up there giving up the most yardage, touchdowns to the position. So I'm going Eddie Lacy. I think Eddie Lacy played decent. He looked decent last week, the best he's looked all year. He's going to be the starter. I know that's tough to trust Pete Carroll, but I think that this Seahawk Rams game has the chance to be one of the sneaky high scoring games of the week. I don't think that it's going to be this low scoring affair that a lot of people think that it's going to be. I don't. The Seattle defense hasn't looked fantastic to start the year. They're on the road. The Rams have looked explosive. So I like Eddie Lacy this week, who can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. We've seen it in Green Bay. So I like Eddie Lacy this week. I think I would go Eddie Lacy and Aaron Jones. Latavius Murray, I do like. I think more in standard than do PPR, especially against the Bears, who are still formidable against the run. And I think that this game is going to be a little bit more close than what people will expect, because it is a division rival game. And I think these games could be a little bit more closer than we think. So I think for me, long story short, I think it's pretty easy Eddie Lacy and Aaron Jones for me.
Yeah, I like those, Kev, a lot. Eddie Lacy is a guy who, I mean, it's like when situation presents itself, maybe this is where they have to go. And I know that a lot of people are seeing the box score and looking what J.D. McKissick did last week, but he was getting a lot of passing work. He really wasn't that rusher that they had, being explosive for them. So this could be a really spot for Lacy to even prove himself, to prove that, this is why they went out and got him for situations like this when they're dealing with injury. So I like that Lacy call. Tyrell being a lock scares me. I really don't think he's a lock by any stretch with this injury he's dealing with, but I do get the play. I was on Tyrell last week, and I'm just going to, chalk that up to me winning that week and not be too high on him this week. So I guess for me, it would be probably Lacy and Aaron Jones. You have to have exposures to this Packers Cowboys game in some way, shape, or form. We've seen a lot of totals on the year not really reach quite that point. But if you go back and look at these matchups from just in 2016, these were fireworks going off here every time these two teams met up. So like those two running backs as well, too. Let's get into some other questions here. I told Jim that we will get his question answered. He's on the live chat here. Thanks for joining us on the YouTube channel here, TFA Game Day. He's got one running back and two flex and gets points for return yards. So I really like this question. He's going between Travis Benjamin, Jonathan Stewart, Jerick McKinnon, and Ellington. This is PPR. So he needs one running back and two flex. So 3 out of these 5 guys, Benjamin, Stewart, McKinnon, or Ellington. 3 out of these 4 guys. Who we leaving off?
Ooh, that's interesting. I think the return yards has Ellington been returning this season? I think he has, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, that's a good question. That I don't know. I thought that was more along the lines for Benjamin there.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Ellington's been returning kicks, not so much punts, but I think he has been on the kickoff.
Well, to me, it's probably Jerick McKinnon. I know I talked earlier about how he's getting so many receptions, but we don't know that he's going to continue getting that, considering his teammate last year was Matt Asiata as compared to Latavius Murray, who's probably a step up from Matt Asiata. So I don't know if he's going to be guaranteed that work there. Jonathan Stewart, you know you're going to get 50 yards and then maybe a score. That's kind of like his floor. He doesn't really go much lower than that. So it's kind of a safe bet depending on how likely you are to beat your opponent this week. Maybe I'd consider having one safe play. And then you could probably go with Travis Benjamin, who will be returning, so he can get some yards there. And he's also just a deep threat. I think I called him the human 9 route in one of my articles I recently wrote about him. So you're going for a big play with him. And then Ellington, I like him as well. I just put him in my most recent free agent article. He's still under 50% owned in redraft leagues. He's got the most targets for any running back so far this season with 30. So I definitely like him in PPR format, regardless of whether or not he is returning right now. So my choice to leave off from this list is Jerick McKinnon.
Andre Ellington, it's 100% in the lineup, especially PPR. He continues to see high volume. They continue to try to with the Cardinals' offensive line has been hit with injuries, so they've had to get the ball out of Carson Palmer's hand at a much quicker rate. I think this is another week they're going to have to do that, especially against Philly's front seven, who's pretty dominant. So I think you're going to see Andre Ellington used all over the field, and I think Andre Ellington's a lock here. Jerick McKinnon, with it being a PPR, I think is certainly I'm playing him. Especially with the cast of characters that he has as the other two. I would be almost inclined to ask, like, who is there anybody else available on free? Because I don't feel comfortable playing Travis Benjamin whatsoever. He's complete boom or bust. And like we've already talked about with San Diego, I just don't feel comfortable with their situation. So it pretty much leads me to Jonathan Stewart, which I don't feel fantastic about. Because I think Christian McCaffrey is obviously the guy there. And so with Jonathan Stewart, you're just hoping and praying he can score a touchdown. And I don't feel fantastic about that being the case. So Ellington and McKinnon are locks for me. And then I think that you pretty much just have to go Jonathan Stewart, but I don't feel great about it.
So we're all going to have different answers because I think I'm going to sit Stewart. I like Kev was just saying, McCaffrey's the 1A there. I think Stewart could fall into the end zone, but the Lions defense has been surprisingly tough against the run, or at least tougher than people thought they would be. I like McKinnon and Ellington, I think, are both top 20 RBs in PPR. I think the Vikings will be behind for a lot of the game tomorrow night. It's Mitch Trubisky breakout week tomorrow. And then that's gonna get a no from the Vikings fan. That's gonna get a no.
Let's get it.
Ryan likes it. Ryan with his 2 teams over there. Gotta get you to pick one. We gotta get you to pick one. When Roethlisberger retires, you can take up Trubisky. That's fine.
True enough.
And then we got, as far as Benjamin, I would look at his return yards, what he's been doing. Off the top of my head, I have no idea in like a league like that what kind of yards he's been doing. If he hasn't been doing well, then yeah, I would probably sit him and lean Stewart. But if he sees a lot of Eli Apple this week, that's not bad. I know Kev's concerned about the Chargers, but I think that offensive line is going to hold up. Olivier Vernon's not going to play today. I don't know. I do like the Chargers a little bit this week. They're a little bit desperate. The Giants have played well the last couple of weeks, but they've still given up points. So I would look at the return yards because I have no idea what kind of floor he has with those. But I'm leaning sitting Stewart.
Yeah, I think sitting Stewart is the move for me. This was a guy I was high on in the preseason, and it just looks like he's having trouble getting going. So Stewart would be that guy for me too.
Travis Benjamin has only returned 7 punts on the year for 35 yards. So he's not doing anything on kick return. It's just punt return. So 7 punt returns for 35 yards.
Yeah, I mean,
well, then you can sit Benjamin.
Right.
Well, like he was saying, he's going against Eli Apple, who has been not a good cornerback this year. I think he just let up a big game to Adam Humphries. So you might have a low week from Travis Benjamin, but I think you could safely say he's getting 3 to 4 receptions, which might not sound like that much, but when he's got the average depth of target like he does, that could end up being a pretty decent outing. So I still like Travis Benjamin there, even though he doesn't do much returns.
Yeah, I hear you there, Kent. Jim, that was Jim's question, and really important for Jim that we hit on that question for him because he is playing his girlfriend this week in his league. So we definitely want to help you get the W there. And if your girlfriend's listening to the show as well too, then hopefully she doesn't try and hack your account.
Punt that week against your girlfriend. Punt that week as much as possible. Just speaking from experience. I have played my girlfriend 3 years in a row in fantasy and won every time, and it's been bad for my health every time. So go ahead and don't make it look like you're punting, but punt.
Oh, Kai, solid advice there. We're going to move along with these questions, guys, as the chat has been blowing up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for getting these questions in. I'm going to start with Steve Donnell. There's 2 Steves here in the chat, but Steve Donnell, he's got a great question for us. He's not sure to start at quarterback today, who to start. Kev, we're talking about Deshaun Watson once again. He's got Deshaun Watson or Carson Wentz. How you guys feeling? It's Deshaun, right? It's obviously Deshaun. Smash spot.
I like Deshaun Watson this week. I have him as a top 10 play. It has not, but it's close. Because I think Carson Wentz.
I know it's hard for you, Kev. Just let thoughts brew, and you can.
I think I would probably go Carson Wentz. And it's close. I have Carson Wentz at 7 and Deshaun Watson at 9 this week. So I think both are great, are solid plays this week. But I just like Carson Wentz a little bit more. I think game script could be a little bit more in favor of Carson Wentz. Their rushing attack has not played very well. Wendell Smallwood is out this week. So I don't really have a ton of faith in LeGarrette Blount. So I think that Carson Wentz is going to have to throw a ton. So I actually I would probably lean towards Carson Wentz. And I also believe that, which I tweeted this out last night while I was up, being, the regular DGen that I am at 1 or 2, 3 in the morning, going through things. I think Corey Clement is actually in play today that a lot of people won't be on. Probably widely available in most leagues. And if you're kind of hurting, especially the guy was asking us about Travis Benjamin and stuff, Corey Clement is the dude that I would be rushing out to pick up, especially in PPR formats, because I think that he's going to be the guy who soaks up those pass catching duties, which what we saw from last week from Wendell Smallwood, which is what he did for, in place of Darren Sproles. So they just continue to, suffer injury at the position. They did sign Kenyon Barner, but I'm not worried about Kenyon Barner. So, but I just think Carson Wentz is in a little better situation. So I think I would lean towards Carson Wentz, but it's pretty close.
I just got to jump in and say, I know you say you think that Deshaun Watson is top 10, or I think that's what you said, but every year a rookie quarterback comes in and starts playing, there's always that one game after they've maybe had a good start where they get humbled.
Preach.
And I think that the Chiefs are going to humble Deshaun Watson this week. They have a very talented defense. They're ball hawking. They get a lot of interceptions, turnovers, stuff like that. They do allow, some points to the position, and usually it's yards after the catch. It's not really on the quarterback's shoulders. The Chiefs are currently only allowing 14.9 points to the quarterback position per game. So I don't see Deshaun Watson having an explosive game. He might connect for a touchdown or two. He's got talented wide receivers. He's got Will Fuller back. DeAndre Hopkins is obviously there and going to get massive targets like he has all year. But there's going to be turnovers, and I think that Deshaun Watson is going to suffer because of this. And I also lean Wentz, mostly because he's just got a nice, safe receiving core. He's got Zach Ertz, who's been outstanding for him this year. Those two are connected on a very deep emotional level. They're just with each other the whole way through. So I think that with Alshon Jeffrey is probably going to draw most of the Patrick Peterson matchups here against the Cardinals. So you're not really going to hope much out of him, but he's still got Torrey Smith. He's still got, I'm drawing a blank on Aguilar. He's got Aguilar and Ertz. I think he's going to get a lot of intermediate passes out there today. And I think he'll have a nice safe floor.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and go Watson then, just at least to make the case for him. I think there's a couple ways this game could play out. I think the Texans at home are in a pretty good spot. The Chiefs, I don't know that they're going to be able to control the game like they've been doing. This Texans offense is so explosive now with Will Fuller in the lineup, and obviously they're not going to put up 57 points, but I think Watson could smash this week, or he could be in a quarterback duel with Alex Smith, and I think he could put up points winning that way, or they could be behind the whole game and he could put up garbage time points. I think there's so many ways for Watson to score, and I think with his legs, you love his floor there. Wentz, the Cardinals defense is tougher than they've been playing. I think they're going to be a little bit better this week, even though it's on the road. I know they're traveling east and all that. I do think the Cardinals are going to surprise some people this week and lose a close game to the Eagles. But without Jeffrey, and the Cardinals have been tough against tight ends with Tyrann Mathieu. I think he's had like a couple bad plays all year, and those have been big plays, but that's about it. And so I think he's going to miss his safety blankets in Ertz and Jeffrey. I don't think I have Wentz as like a top 15 play this week. So yeah, I'm leaning Watson. But especially, I mean, the guy just put up 30 something points for you. I don't think you can sit him if you have both.
Yeah, but let's be real here. That's against two of the worst defenses in the league. So you can't just one for one say, well, he just put up 30 points. Well, he did, but against two of the worst pass defenses in football, and it's not even close. So the Chiefs defense is significantly better than that. So the Chiefs tend to give up plays between the 20s, right? But then as soon as it gets to the red zone, they clamp down and they hold opponents out of the end zone. So I think that Deshaun Watson, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he shit the bed. I think he's a very volatile play this week. I do like him just because the Chiefs have given up chunk plays and things like that, and with his running ability. But I've heard people bring up this week, that how last week Kirk Cousins, I think, ran for 40 or 50 yards against them, and that's Kirk Cousins, and Deshaun Watson's significantly better athlete. But I don't think the Chiefs were really game planning to stop that. This week, obviously, when you're heading into this matchup, the Chiefs know, that Deshaun Watson's running ability, and they're going to be game planning for that all week. The things that scare the hell out of me with Deshaun Watson is he continues to be reckless with the football, makes bad decisions, and against the Chiefs, a team that, like Kent said, who is very much ball hawking defense, that could come back to bite him this week. We've seen Deshaun Watson in two excellent matchups, and he balled. And then the week that he played, an actual defense, he didn't play well at all. Against the Bengals. So as much as I like Deshaun Watson, I think Deshaun Watson can be a good play this week. I'm also scared. It also scares the hell out of me because of the fact that we don't know exactly how good Deshaun Watson is. Everybody's all over the hype train of Deshaun Watson, and I've been saying this all week that they've done it against two of the worst defenses in football, and this is not a bad defense in Kansas City. So I think this is one of the games. Obviously, I'm a Chiefs fan, but I think that this is going to be one of the best games on the day and one that I'm really looking forward to. But I'm not starting Deshaun confidence with ultimate confidence this week.
Well, there we go. There we go. 5 minutes on Wentz and Watson. Kai, sorry to cut you off, but I just want to make sure that we get to all these questions because we do have some good ones in spots that we haven't talked about. Let's just stick on that same side of the game with Wentz. And Steve Simmons actually has a question. Would you pick up and start Carson Palmer over Phillip Rivers here? He would need to drop Rivers in order to do so. So he's thinking he really likes Rivers, doesn't want to lose him, and he wonders if it's enough of a risk to play Carson Palmer here in a road game against the Eagles. I've seen a lot of hype being around this Cardinals team, at least to start the week, where people were wanting to play him. But, man, those West Coast teams traveling to the East Coast really scare me. Palmer has not really looked great, even in good spots where he was supposed to, like, smash this Dallas team, you know, on Monday Night Football. And then this Dallas defense came to life, abusing this offensive line that they have. And even with Fletcher Cox out for the Eagles, this Eagles front seven is nothing to mess with. So I have a lot of exposures to the Eagles defense, and I'm willing to just say, hey, you might as well just play Rivers on the road because I think you're getting the same type of quarterback.
Yeah, I think they're pretty close, like you were just talking about, similar kinds of things, West Coast teams going east. I'm not scared from playing Palmer in any way. I know in the past they've had bad splits in this kind of situation, but the Eagles secondary is so banged up. They're missing Jalen Watkins today as well as Sidney Jones, who's been out for a long time. And I think the game could flow in a way that Carson Palmer's forced to throw. They haven't been able to run the ball except with screen passes to Andre Ellington. That's been their running game. And DJ Humphries is going to be out too. So Carson Palmer could get sacked a whole bunch today, but you don't lose points for that. So I think the Eagles could control the game for a while. I think Palmer will be behind and have like a nice garbage time showing for you. I'm not scared of playing Rivers. If you'd rather do him, I don't have a problem with that if you'd rather start Rivers. But just because I think the same thing could happen to him. I really like Wayne Gallman this week. I think he's going to smash the Chargers. I think he's a top 15 running back play this week. Paul Perkins is out for people that don't know. I think we talked about that a little bit. But I'm talking too long about this. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm going to jump in real quick and talk about Palmer. I don't think I have enough confidence to start him over Phillip Rivers just because he is a little bit more interception prone. But one thing I do want to say real quick is he has had 3 out of 4 games with 48 or more passing attempts. They are slinging the ball, and I think this is like one of the few games so far with the season and the preseason where he has had all of his receivers. And he's got now Andre Ellington coming into form. John Brown might not be able to play a full set of snaps, but he's definitely going to be out there catching the football. You better believe it. And Jaron Brown is breaking out. He's having a great season. He's got passing options, and this secondary is just not going to be able to contain all of them. So you're going to get yards. He's had 3 out of his last 3 games were over 300 yards. With his lowest being 325, you're going to have at least a passing floor there. Like I said, you do have the risk of him throwing interceptions and getting sacked, and he could get really beat up this game. But if you want to take a risk, he could have some major upside. Talking like 3-4 touchdowns is very possible. So I'm not opposed to playing Palmer. I just think Rivers is a little bit safer because the Giants' defense isn't exactly stellar as well. So. Rivers has gotten it done for a while. Palmer is a little bit more up and down considering his age now. He's getting up there, and he doesn't have his biggest threat in David Johnson anymore, obviously. So you're a little bit safer with Rivers, but I think Palmer might have some outstanding upside this week.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I definitely think Palmer is a little more volatile, but I like his ceiling better than Rivers. And if this is your team, if you like Rivers and he's been on your team for a while, and you don't want to, risk dropping him and have somebody else get him, I guess, then yeah, feel free to go for it. I mean, it's your team. But yeah, if you want an upside play just for this week and then maybe grab Rivers back off the waivers next week, then I wouldn't hate that.
I think it's pretty easy, Carson Palmer, for me. I have Carson Palmer ranked 6th And Philip Rivers 14. I think he's pretty interchangeable with all those guys in that range. I'm not the volume that you're going to get from Carson Palmer, and I just think it's an overall better matchup. I think John Brown can eat this week. You beat the Eagles deep, and so I love John Brown as a play in both season and DFS leagues. I think Jerron Brown is right there with him. And then obviously Larry Fitzgerald, a little narrative street, needs 67 yards to surpass Steve Smith this week. I just think overall it's a much better matchup for Carson Palmer and somebody that I would rather have in my lineup who has a much higher ceiling, in my opinion. Because, I mean, Philip Rivers has just looked awful so far this year. And now heading to New York to playing the Giants all the way across the country, which obviously Carson Palmer is traveling to Philadelphia as well, I believe. So, but I just think Carson Palmer is a much better play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That Chargers and Giants game, man, both teams 0-4, looking not to go 0-5. That is disgusting over there. So, yeah, I get not wanting to play Rivers, but Palmer, man, he's just been in so many letdown spots. I don't know if I could do it there. I get it, though. Let's move on here. And Tyler has one of my favorite questions so far on the day. He's got a flex spot question. It's non-PPR, and we can only pick one of the three. He has Thomas Rawls, Amari Cooper, or Buck Allen. Cooper struggles really worrying him, and that's why he's looking to go to the bench. If you are looking to bench him, I mean, I guess you could play Buck Allen in this spot where Joe Flacco looks awful right now. He looks washed. He just looks lost out there. And I really don't know what to make of it. Buck Allen, he could be seeing some catching work, but it's not PPR, so that really doesn't matter there. I just really don't know how you bench Cooper. I mean, you invested a top round pick in him, and if he goes off on your bench, I don't care if it's EJ Manuel or what. Like he's going to be an option there with Michael Crabtree being banged up and Jared Cook, who seems to get open but drops all these passes in the end zone just like Cooper too. Anyway, so EJ might just say, lesser of two evils. Let me just get the ball to Cooper.
I mean, don't be afraid of EJ Manuel. I mean, it's been a few years now, but this guy was a first-round draft pick. He was on the Bills, which wasn't exactly a great supporting cast there. He did struggle a little bit with arm talent when he did come into the NFL, but he's got at least the physical capabilities to get the job done. I mean, he can throw the football reasonably accurate. So you have enough receiving options there. You have Crabtree and Cooper, but I think Crabtree coming off this injury is just something you don't really want to, or you got to consider when you're thinking about playing Cooper. So I think that Cooper will get his targets. I think they're going to throw still. The run game, like we said earlier, has just been atrocious. Marshawn Lynch doesn't look good. They can't really trust DeAndre Washington or Jalen Richard to do anything between the tackles. So yeah, they're going to have to throw. And I think that Cooper is the main guy that he's going to look to. He's the best on the team at getting open and creating space. So you're going to hope that he can get some quick routes and get some yards after the catch, because I don't see them doing much long ball games here. So I think Cooper becomes kind of the biggest play here. It's actually kind of gross. Real quick, I have to point out that Amari Cooper has fallen into the tier of Rawls and Buck Allen as a start-sit question. It's not fun to see, but I think you still got to go Cooper here, even though you got to think about it a little bit now.
Yeah, man. I understand the concern that you have with the drops and everything, but you got to start Cooper. I wouldn't be scared of EJ Manuel, like Kent was saying. Last week he looked like one of the best quarterbacks that's played the Broncos so far. He marched right down the field and almost won the game. I think people forget that he's looked better than week 4 version of Derek Carr. That's for sure. So I'm not saying he's like going to be the starter forever, but yeah, I don't think I'm scared of EJ Manuel. I'm definitely not scared of the matchup. The corners is where you attack the Ravens. They're tougher to run on than a majority of teams, and they have a good safety duo as well with Tony Jefferson and Eric Weddle. So I attack the corners, when I play them. So yeah, I think Crabtree's still a little dinged up. I think you like Cooper this week. The only thing that scares you is Cooper. Like, is he going to drop his targets? Is he, like you said, Ken said, it's not a problem of being open. He's been the most open player on the team. It's just, does he catch the ball? Is he seeing red zone work? It's the same questions we've been having with Cooper his whole career. But yeah, I still think you play him over those options. I'm one of the biggest Thomas Rawls defenders you'll find. But even I'm not going to start him above Cooper, and I'm not starting him until he takes over this backfield in a couple weeks. Hashtag hot take. And then Buck Allen, I think Alex Collins is the play there. I think they'll be able to control this game. I do kind of like EJ Manuel and those wide receivers, but I don't think that Buck Allen is the play. I think Alex Collins is getting more involved week after week. The Raiders have not been able to stop anybody through the air or on the ground. And so I like Alex Collins a little bit more. I think, with those options, you've got to stick with Cooper, at least until you see what he looks like with a full game with EJ Manuel.
Good stuff there, guys. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. It's like you invest this draft equity into players coming into the season, and we're only a quarter of the way through, guys. I know that, and I'm the big one of this. I really don't like Cooper, and I've talked about it a lot on the TFA podcast. But the dude is, he's still somewhat talented, and so when you're in a season-long league, a lot of my takes come from a DFS perspective, and when you're in a season-long league, it's like you got to just play the guys who are in that position to, win you the week. And Cooper can go out there and smash way more than, a Thomas Rawls can. So I definitely would go Cooper there. Guys, before we get into some other questions here, because TN, big fan of the TFA Authority, has just joined the chat. So I want to make sure we get to his, but I want to go around, do a little round table here and see what's one of your guys' favorite games on the slate. I know a lot's been made of this Dallas-Green Bay matchup here where fireworks are expected to happen, 50-something over-under there. But there's a lot of other games that I think, are really just got a lot of question marks and maybe aren't being talked about enough. You got Pittsburgh at home against Jacksonville, where this Jacksonville defense has looked absolutely amazing, but who really have they played, right? And Steelers at home is something that we've, tried to hit on for the past couple of years. And now all of a sudden that bin looks washed. People don't want to go to that spot, but the history is there. So I'm really interested in that game. And another game that I'm interested in too, on this main slate here, is the Detroit and Carolina game. I'm really curious to see what Panthers team shows up. I love Golden Tate this week. Carolina has been hemorrhaging points to wide receivers from the slot, and number one receivers have been eating them up. So Matthew Stafford, Golden Tate are on a lot of my lineups here for DFS, and if that hits, then I'm gonna be sitting pretty in some tournaments. But I want to get your guys' take on some of these other games.
Yeah, as far as those two games you mentioned, I do the Panthers Lions one is the one I feel like I have the least grasp of what's going to happen. I think both those defenses have looked pretty tough, and both those offenses have played well the last couple of weeks or so. So that's a very interesting game. I like Amir Abdullah a lot this week in that game, and we talked about Funchess a little bit as well. And Golden Tate, that's a great call, Ryan. I think he could smash this week as well. But the other game you were talking about, the Jags-Steelers game, the Steelers have been money at home. Martavis Bryant has been money at home throughout his career. And you're obviously starting Antonio Brown. And Le'Veon Bell could be, even at his super exuberant price on DK and things, I think you can still find a way to fit Le'Veon Bell in your lineup. The one thing the Jags have not been able to do is stop the run. Last week, they were kind of destroyed by a couple of big plays from the Jets, but they looked good outside of those plays too. It wasn't just those two carries making Elijah McGuire and Bilal Powell's day. The Jags have not scared people as far as their run defense so far. In that terrible London, awful, why did I get up that early Ravens game with the Jags, Alex Collins was the best part about that offense, just running it up the middle with Alex Collins. So I think Le'Veon Bell is going to be the best running back play of the week, which shouldn't surprise anybody because he's playing better than anyone but Kareem Hunt right now. But yeah, those are, and on the Jags side, I think the Steelers have been vulnerable against the run as well. They've had some injuries and they've been banged up. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, so you like Leonard Fournette there. I think there's a Jags wide receiver that's going to go off for at least one score. But is that Marquise Lee? Is that Alan Hearns? I couldn't tell you. I don't think Bortles is a good play this week, just based on how terrible he looked last week. I think that London game was pretty fluky, and that's been his only good game so far. But there could be a lot of garbage time for Bortles. He is the garbage man. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 10 quarterback play with a backdoor cover this week. So, yeah, as far as those two games, that's what I think. One game I'm really excited to watch for plenty of reasons is the Colts-Niners game. I think both these defenses have looked just shy of atrocious this season. So I think Carlos Hyde, Frank Gore is probably going to pass. Was it Eric Dickerson this week? He's going to pass him as far as most rushing yards all time against the 49ers. Like, how more perfect could that get? Like, Frank Gore could have a huge week this week. Brissett, we talked about a little bit. I think he could be a good play this week. Brian Hoyer could even be a good play just based on how the Colts have looked. They have been playing better in the secondary with Vontae Davis back. That shuts a little bit of things down. Malik Hooker has had already great games and is playing well. Their first-round pick at free safety. So I like a lot of the 49ers outside of Pierre Garçon, just because I think he's going to see a lot of Vontae Davis. But T.Y. Hilton, fire him up as at least a wide receiver 2 this week. And Dante Moncrief, if you need a flex, I think he's worth it just because I think he could get into the end zone like he did last week. So those are just my thoughts on those games. And then, yeah, what do you guys think about the Niners-Colts?
It's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. It's two semi-struggling teams, obviously. 49ers have actually quite a bit of offensive firepower. I know that Brian Hoyer is not exactly your ideal quarterback if you're going to base a system around, but Carlos Hyde is getting it done on the ground. I think the Colts have been fairly stout against the running backs so far this year, but I think that's more due to the fact that they're beatable through the air, so teams kind of opt out of running against them. But luckily, Carlos Hyde has receiving chops, so he's going to be able to get some points today. On the Colts side of the ball, Jacoby Brissett actually looks decent. He can run the ball, he can move around, he can create some mismatches. So I think Hilton's going to have a decent game. That's been talked about quite a bit, and I think he got touched on in some DFS stuff, which we haven't really gone on. But he could have a solid game, a lot of receptions. I think probably could be in a 6+ reception range today, just on nice quick routes. But one game I want to talk about, and we haven't really talked about it in any instance really, just a little bit, but Monday night, the Bears coming to Minnesota, or maybe not coming to Minnesota, but playing Minnesota, my hometown guys, and Trubisky's going to get thrown into the wolf pit. I think the Vikings are going to tear him apart. No, okay, that's the homer speaking, but a little more seriously, it's going to be an interesting game. I think we're going to have Sam Bradford back. Kevin and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. He's been practicing this week in limited capabilities. His injury is a strange one because it's just kind of knee issues, knee swelling. It's nothing that was like a direct hit, so he's not healing up from a distinct injury. It's just soreness. So I do think that he gets in the game this week because it's a divisional matchup. They have a really low over-under. It's at 40. Personally, I'm hitting the over on that. I think these two teams are capable of scoring. Trubisky, we've seen him in the preseason. He looked capable. I think they're going to try and keep him going to his safe options. They'll probably use Jordan Howard quite a bit. But I also think that the key to beating the Vikings defense right now is going outside with Tariq Cohen a lot. I really like him. I think he's going to get a lot of dump-off passes from Trubisky, trying to stretch the field out a little bit. Get Xavier Rhodes, put somewhere where you don't have to throw to him because he has been locking people down so far this season. The they have some okay wide receivers in Chicago, but it's kind of just a conglomerate. There's no one guy that really sticks out. So whoever's going to be away from Xavier Rhodes, that's where they're going to get Trubisky moving the ball to. You're going to see a lot of spread out receptions for the Bears, but I think they're going to be able to move the ball on us a little bit. The Vikings, on the other hand, if Sam Bradford plays, Stefon Diggs is going to absolutely continue his dominance. He's leading the league in receiving yards right now. I don't see that, changing much. Yeah, no one in the top tier of receivers has a good enough matchup this week to really catch up to him. So, I think he'll have another solid floor game. He could be in line for some touchdowns. If Sam Bradford does play, also Kyle Rudolph might be worth taking a look at. He has kind of had an iffy season so far, but could be in line to get some work again because Sam Bradford has shown that he does love throwing to his tight end. So if he's in, look for Rudolph, but other than that, maybe not. So.
Oh, Kent, man, you had to talk Vikings, man. I was not looking forward to that. I thought that they would hold off Mitchell just one more game there, man. Throwing him against Minnesota in his first start. I get it's at home, but my goodness, John Fox,
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Give the kid a chance. Well, awesome, guys. Yeah, just wanted to hit on some games just to kind of paint the picture for the slate that we're kind of dealing with this week. Let's get back into some questions here. TN, I told you I would get to yours, and he's got 2, so I want to go back to back here. Half-point PPR, Latavius Murray or Duke Johnson. I know we talked a lot about Latavius. Duke Johnson's a new guy here. Duke Johnson for me, half-point PPR, no question.
Duke Johnson, next question.
Yeah, I would have Duke Johnson even in standard. I'd have him above Latavius Murray. Just Duke Johnson and Tariq Cohen, these running backs are the best options in the passing game for their quarterback. It's not a thing we've seen a lot in the past. It just so happens to be on a below average team and a really bad team. But I think that's a weird, interesting part about this season is that Duke Johnson is every time the ball is snapped and he runs a route, he is the best option for his quarterback. I guess outside of Ricardo Lewis, if you're Kev, but yeah, I like both of them this week. I think they're both good plays. The Bears wide receivers, there's almost nothing there. There's a little bit of Kendall Wright, but that's about it. There's no one else for Trubisky to throw to.
Didn't they bring up Trey McBride?
So.
So. Did they really?
Yeah, they activated Trey McBride.
So, yeah, they activated. As far as people that got activated, I was really mad when I looked on DraftKings this morning and couldn't put Corey Brown, downtown Philly Brown, in all my lineups. I don't get your stuff together, DraftKings, just because he got added on Tuesday, Wednesday, and you've already put out the slate. You need an addendum for Corey Brown. What's the deal? I don't understand.
Man, it's a rough week when Kai's begging to play Corey Brown here, Mr. Philly Brown. Love that. TN, he had another question here. We talked about Rivers already, but he's trying to figure out if he should go Stafford or Rivers. I really like this Detroit offense, guys, and, having a hard time being talked off of it. But, Rivers could be – Rivers is always just one of those guys to me where I just never know what's going to happen because anytime that the Chargers are getting blown out and he's forced to throw, he then, hits that 300 yards and, gets a couple scores there, even if he has 2 to 3 interceptions. So, but it just is hard. We had Melvin Gordon come out this week talking about how frustrated he was only seeing 11 touches last week. So they could just try and get him involved more. I think Stafford is just leaps and bounds the safe play here.
If Gordon wants more touches, he should just play better. I mean, that's what that is about.
Let him know.
No, I mean, last year he had a ridiculous amount of touchdowns, but still yards per carry, he was, below average, and he's already at 3.1, I think, for this season. So if Melvin Gordon wants the ball more, he's got to run a little better, my dude. But as far as those two guys, we've talked a little bit about both. For me, I give the edge to Stafford. He is at home. They are playing a Carolina team that has looked good and bad. So I'm not sure which Carolina defense is going to show up. Not sure which Carolina offense is going to show up. But yeah, with Rivers, I mean, we've talked a lot about Rivers. He's got a semi-okay matchup with the Giants. You like one of their corners to be able to shut down either Tyrell Williams or Travis Benjamin for most of the game. And then the pass rush is okay with Jason Pierre-Paul, but like we said before, Olivier Vernon's going to be out. Eli Apple is exploitable. So I think Rivers is a good play as well, but I do like Stafford just a little bit more.
One name to keep in mind out of the Chargers backfield is a guy that I touched on in the Free Agent Sleeper article. That's Austin Eckler. He's not very well known. He's a great pass catcher. Came out of a small school. He showed last week. He got a big 35-yard touchdown. Yeah, don't expect that every week. I'm going to be very clear about that. This guy's not an every week starter, but he's definitely showing that he's got some pass catching chops. And Melvin Gordon, like you said, he hasn't looked too hot. And even last year, he was really touchdown dependent, and a lot of his games had pretty low yardage. He would just run in 1 or 2 touchdowns, smash it down the mouth, and he'd have a serviceable fantasy day. And he could do that all year because the team was so high scoring. But the Chargers this year, like you said, they're 0-4. They're not scoring as much. In the first and third quarter so far this season, they have a total of 14 points. That is abysmal. Or it might be 28. But either way, it's still really low. They haven't been doing a lot of scoring in the early quarters. They do all their game is catch up. And to me, that means passing. And, Rivers, like you said, we know who he is. He's been doing the same thing for years now. I think I like Stafford better. He's just a better quarterback. Personally, he got paid to be the better quarterback. You guys saw that big fat check. So Stafford has, I think, a lot better options too. Maybe not. I think maybe Keenan Allen's probably got the hair for the best wide receiver out of the group. But, Stafford just has multiple receiving options. And now Amir Abdullah's shown up, and he's starting to relieve a little bit of the passing game for him too. So I like that Jim Bob Cooter offense has been working real well for him. So I think they'll keep it going. I go Stafford.
As far as with this Chargers-Giants game, how is this one going to end? Because the Chargers seem to be missing field goals at the end of games over and over, and the Giants seem to have gotten beat on last-second field goals 2 weeks in a row now. So who's going to lose the game? Because I don't feel like one of them's going to win it. I feel like one of them's going to lose it, but I don't know.
It's going to be a 0-0 tie.
Well, hopefully at least for fantasy, hopefully it's a 33-33 tie.
I'll take that. I'll definitely take that.
That is hilarious. 0-0 tie, man. Oh, no tie. You know what? I'll say this though. It really should be the Chargers, because otherwise I am going to have to turn my TV off if the Giants are, 0-5 to start the season, and some of these analysts had them as their, Super Bowl contender or going far in the playoffs, win the NFC East, and it's just going to be all Giants talk, and I can't deal with it. So, hopefully the Giants just get the win at home, and then we can just save face, move on to next week. Guys, we got another quarterback question here. Alex Smith or Carson Wentz? Kev, we're going to start with you, as I know you like Wentz too, but Alex Smith is your boy, right?
Yeah, I think he's a decent play this week, but it's Carson Wentz. I mean,
yeah, I'm not looking to start Alex Smith this week. I think there's better options out there. But yeah, and especially Wentz, I think, yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about him. I'm not crazy about Wentz this week, but I do like him a little more than Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just Alex Smith is just, the QB2 overall in the season. I think everyone's been saying that about him all year, is that, I don't want to play Alex Smith, and he continues to shove the middle finger up to everybody else. So
this is by far the best defense they've played all season. So we do have to take that in.
Their secondary is not very good, though.
It's been banged up, but
it's still banged up. So
it's still banged up. But yeah, I think their secondary is below average. But I think the Chiefs have had offensive line injuries. Kev, you might be able to remind me a little bit more about exactly who's healthy and who's not. But the Texans pass rush is just crazy right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate either one of them, but I think, yeah, definitely Wentz over Smith.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans defense against the QB so far this year, they've actually been fairly stout. The one game they gave up like 60% of their total QB points on the year was the Tom Brady show in week 3. So I think it's safe to say that Alex Smith is not Tom Brady. Forgive me, Kevin, for I have sinned, but
only quarterback with more points than Alex Smith, Tom Brady.
Yes. I mean, Alex Smith he's started this season extremely well, and he's very efficient. He hasn't thrown an interception yet, and that's, I don't want to be like the regression guy, but he's not going to go the whole season without throwing an interception. So he's going to get probably beat up a little bit. That line's pretty good, but their secondary is at least okay enough to stop Alex Smith. It'll be kind of close. I think Alex Smith is capable because they do have a good offense with a lot of pieces, and then Kareem Hunt is just insane. We haven't talked about Kareem Hunt yet so far, but we don't really need to because he's fantastic, and he's just going to keep getting it done. So, yeah, I still think that I go Wentz between Smith and Wentz, but they're close for me. I wouldn't be opposed to either, really.
No, I hear you guys. Alex Smith on the road here, I think he could come back down to earth. So maybe it is Carson Wentz there for me, as I'm sure they'll try and get Kareem going as much as possible. While we're winding down here, 9 minutes, man. Thank you guys so much for coming into the chat. Saw about 10 people in here at one time, so we appreciate that. And Fantasy Authority Game Day Show, we're trying to get your questions answered, so we're gonna keep it moving here. We got a question here. This is tough here. Not tough. I think there's an answer, but Ajayi or Jonathan Stewart. It doesn't say PPR or standard, but I believe Ajayi is really the clear option. I think these running backs in that game, Tennessee and Miami side, both get going as the quarterbacks. Well, Cutler's been struggling, and then it's Matt Castle on the other side. I was going to say both have been struggling, but Mariota's not playing. So what do you guys think? Is that pretty much a lock there? Move on?
Yeah, it's Ajayi, and then a log out, not fiercely, but
it is standard,
like a tender log out. Just because I mean Jay Cutler has looked terrible. I mean that's what it is. He's looked terrible. That's what scares you about this offense. Ajayi has not had the opportunities to score. If he had, like Jonathan Stewart has had, the opportunities to score, you would clearly like him better. But I think the Tennessee offense is very vulnerable in many, many ways. Lamar Miller had his best game in a long, long, long time last week against them. Leonard Fournette has looked good against them. Chris Carson has looked good against them. And Marshawn Lynch had his best game against them. The Titans cannot stop the run. I think this could be Ajayi's best game of the season. And I've talked a little bit about Stewart. I know we all have, and he's got 50 yards and maybe a touchdown. I think with Ajayi, you're looking at maybe he could have a bad game again, but probably 75, 80, 90 yards and probably a touchdown rather than maybe a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I really see Ajayi as a groove runner. We were talking about this earlier. He needs to get carries to get going. In the start, he's kind of slow. But once he finally breaks off one, he kind of relaxes a little bit and starts getting into a groove, hits his holes a little bit harder, and gets a feel for his line. So definitely if the Dolphins are finally at home for the first time, so the crowd's going to be on their side. They're going to be, probably putting up as good a defense as the Dolphins defense can put up. So they're going to need to pound the rock with Ajayi. And so I think he's in the 20 carry range today. And so to me, that means about 100 yards. It kind of can ebb and flow with him a little bit, but that Tennessee defense is very beatable on the ground. So there's definitely chance for a touchdown or two out of Ajayi as well. Definitely more than Stewart. I mean, the Lions defense has been pretty good this year. I think they're going to control the ball a lot. We talked about the Lions a little bit earlier. So I I don't see the Panthers having an outstanding offensive day today. And to me, that tones down Stewart and cranks up Christian McCaffrey a little bit, especially, well, we're talking standard, but I think McCaffrey's going to get a little bit more edge when it comes to touches today. So, yeah, I mean, Ajayi's the clear option, but I at least want to give a little bit of, credence into what the thought behind it is.
No, 100%, man. I mean, Cutler's look bad. He's pretty much not playing for his job because I really don't know where they would go. But, like, if he keeps throwing, donuts up like this against the Saints defense, my Lord, it's going to be bad. And, I'm just happy they don't have him in the booth because that probably would have been bad too. So I'd rather see him bad football than have to mute my TV when he's on there. We got 5 minutes, guys, until lock. Still one more question here, but real quick, I just wanted to see if we could go around and I know Kevin and I really play DFS. I wonder if there's one guy that you guys are building any DFS lineups around, whether that be FanDuel, Fantasy Draft, DraftKings, anything like that. I've talked about him a lot. The guy for me is Golden Tate. I haven't looked at my exposures yet, but last night before I went to bed, I saw 86% exposure to Golden Tate on some of my teams. So that's right where I am. How are you guys feeling?
I definitely I have more than 50% of my lineups have a stack with Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb. I've talked a little bit in my weekly hot takes article about how the Cowboys cannot cover anyone under 10 yards. That's just part of their scheme. That's part of their talent is they give up short passing plays. And Randall Cobb is that part of this offense outside of the pass catching running backs. I think he could have a great week. He looked healthy last week. He's going to see a nice floor of targets as well, along with Jordy Nelson and with Devontae Adams still gingerly coming back. I think he'll play today. I'm not sure if they've confirmed that, but I think they'll involve Cobb more than him. And this game, we've talked about targeting this game. Traditionally, high-scoring games, no matter what, between the Cowboys and Packers over the last decade or so. And part of that's been Aaron Rodgers. So I like lots of Cowboys in this game, lots of Packers, but that's a stack that I've been looking to do. And in a couple lineups, I've done Rodgers, Cobb, and Dez. As kind of like a weird stack. Yeah, that's one that I've been looking at. What about you guys?
Well, you just tossed out Dez's name, so I guess I'll go ahead and go into that. He's 6,500 this week on DraftKings, and to me, that's glorious. I mean, he's finally drawn his first reasonably good quarterback matchup. He's had a tough start to the season. He's fourth in the league in targets. He has 2 touchdowns, but he is going to get fed the ball like crazy today. I think Dak is going to, obviously we talked about the over-under for this game and how it's like a gold mine for DFS stuff. So I think Dez Bryant is going to get, I think, safely over 100 yards, probably around the 6-7 reception mark, and the possibility for 1 or 2 touchdowns. I don't think anyone on the Green Bay defense is capable of blocking Dez Bryant in the red zone. I think they're going to throw him that nice little shoulder fade that he loves to catch, and I think he's going to have a touchdown or 2 today. So I have him in, I think, every single lineup, maybe a couple just for a little bit of contrarian kind of stuff. But at 6,500, I can't not play him this week. That's Dez Bryant for me.
Yeah, I think Dez Bryant's probably the top wide receiver on the slate, especially on DraftKings, 6,500. I mean, there's no way you can get around that. I think some other guys, T.Y. Hilton certainly is in play. I think running back is probably the most interesting place. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell is going to have the highest ownership on the day, which makes all the sense in the world. The Jaguars just let Bilal Powell and Elijah McGuire just go ham against them. That I think Todd Gurley, somebody we haven't talked about, but continues to see David Johnson type work. And so for me, Todd Gurley should be in lineups every single week. I don't think there is a week to fade Todd Gurley when he's seeing this kind of usage. The rest of the running backs, I think I have a ton of Andre Ellington. And then what I've been doing is going down and plucking some of these cheaper running backs. I think that Corey Clement is somebody that I will have no ownership, that I have in some lineups with no Wendell Smallwood. I think Wayne Gallman is in play. I don't feel fantastic about it, but I think that he's in play. And then I got a guy who's sort of last second that I threw in a few lineups, and that is Corey Grant from the Jaguars. I don't obviously going to be no ownership whatsoever, but TJ Yeldon is out this week. I think if the Steelers get ahead, I think Corey Grant, who should be their number 2 back, has looked explosive every time he's been given an opportunity, but could be a little sneaky play, very contrarian. Not something I would probably only have in less than 5% of lineups, but certainly I think those guys are all the guys that I've been throwing in lineups. And obviously Eddie Lacy, in my 3 o'clock only games, my afternoon only, I'm going to have some Eddie Lacy and probably some Jeremy Maclin is another guy that nobody's on. I actually think this is a get right spot for the Ravens this week. Everybody's off them, rightfully so. Their offense has looked atrocious, but I think this is sort of a game where the Ravens can get back on track. And I actually like Jeremy Maclin. I know a lot of people hate Jeremy Maclin so far, but last week could have had a touchdown. Joe Flacco just completely didn't throw to him, even though he was wide open. Would have been an easy 30-yard touchdown. So I think Jeremy Maclin, another guy who will have no ownership, is somewhere where I will be on. And DraftKings, I will not play Alex Collins anywhere. He just doesn't see the pass catching work. And if that dude fumbles one more time, his ass is going to be on the bench. That dude just continues to fumbled 17 times in his career at Arkansas. So I think Alex Collins, I think that ship is not going to last very long and is going to run aground because that man just cannot continue to hold on to the football. So it looks a lot like a Matt Jones situation.
It seems
goodness.
It seems like Harbaugh doesn't care.
This week he came out and said that that if he fumbles again, he will be finding himself on the bench.
Okay.
The only reason they have to put him in is because he's the only back that can do anything right now.
I like Buck Allen. I think Buck Allen has
he'll be fine catching passes.
So Kev, just to clarify, Kevin Steele favorite Corey Grant and Kevin Steele favorite Corey Clement are not the same player. Just for people that don't know, they're not the same guy. They're on.
These are the guys
teams,
you got to
right?
be on if you're going to take down a GPP. These are the guys you got to find. These under the
I'm
radar.
just saying, because some people could be confused.
Again, Tyler Croft. All I'm going to say 0.4% ownership last week in the Millie Maker was on the winning Millie Maker lineup.
And then we did lock, but locks have gone. It's past 11, but I don't think we talked about the Bills-Bengals game at all. So we went the whole show.
We might not have,
we
man.
forgot the Bills-Bengals game.
Yeah, I loved AJ Green to start the week. It's just there were so many other guys that I found in just so many good spots where AJ Green, I think, he's going to get a touchdown. I think that I just lock him in for a touchdown every week, but it's a matter of how many yards, how many catches he's going to get. And while he is seeing a huge, massive just market share on the Bengals, he is only coming up with, 4, 5, 6 catches sometimes in a given week. Really only hit 100 yards only once this year. So, but yeah, I loved him and Mixon to start the week. I do have some exposures to those guys, but yeah, I kind of got off of it when I just started seeing price discrepancies like a T.Y. Hilton, who I think is in a great spot, Golden Tate, who's in a great spot. And, even Martavis Bryant, he could do one long one. So hopefully he pays off for me. But yeah, guys, appreciate you guys taking the time to be on with me and Kev. Kent there. Guys, remember he's at CCNP_Kent. And then Kai once again joining us at Kai Squared. TFA Fantasy Authority, guys. We definitely love doing this show for you guys every Sunday. This helps us set our lineups. This helps us, help you answer some questions and gets us on some plays that we might not be thinking of. And as Kev there is walking away, probably turning on the TV to see if Ricardo Lewis has scored yet. We are going to sign off, guys, but thank you so much. Game Day Show at TFA Fantasy Authority, on Twitter at FF_authority. Guys, if you like this show, make sure you hit that like button on the YouTube channel. Let your friends know we will be doing this 10:30 to 12 p.m. Central Time every Sunday all week for you guys. So we hope you enjoyed. Good luck this Sunday. Week 5 kicks off. Let's get it.
Hey, let's watch the football.
Go Chiefs!